Good morning,
Good morning.
everybody.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us from all over the world. I am going to jump right off and give the screen over to Celeste, to Jane, and to Vanessa. I'm so excited to hear what they have to say today, but I'm going to leave that to them to tell you all about it. Okay, I'll see you in the social.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. We are very excited about our third, Collaborate to Navigate. And we're particularly excited because of the survey that Celeste had spearheaded putting together to really find out what you want to hear. And so today we're guiding it all around reinventing yourself, reinventing your brand, your offering, your value proposition. And so I'm just so excited to have these two experts with me and for us to be able to share this platform. And we're super excited to see all of you from all over the world, literally, joining us this morning. And we really want to encourage you to please put your comments in the chat box, ask questions. You can either ask them in the chat box or in the Ask a Question section below. And Jen will be sending out some polls every now and then. So as you know, she's gone backstage and that's where she'll be busy. So as always, she'll flag us to keep us on time and on track so we don't go too much over. But yeah, before anything else, let's jump right in. We don't want to hold back. So I'll introduce myself, then hand over to Celeste and then over to Vanessa, who will kick us off with our first question. And then Celeste will take our second one and I will end up on the last one. So it's really all around the why, the what, and the how of reinventing yourself. So if you don't know by now, my name is Jane Moors, Out of Box Thinking. I'm normally training people on the A to Z of recruitment or on how to interview people to make sure that you attract and hire the top talent for your organization or agency. And yeah, just loving this webinar. So I'm going to hand over to you, Celeste, for your introduction, and off we go.
Thanks very much, Jane, and welcome to all. I'm equally excited to be sitting here co-hosting with both Jane and Vanessa, so welcome. Yes, it's wonderful to have everyone here. My role or my position, excuse me if no one knows who I am, I represent Employer Branding South Africa. My focus is very much on employer branding and employer branding in the spirit of how companies are branding themselves, how they are presently in the spotlight at the moment, and just watching the space with intrigue, because I think we all can relate to the fact that they are certainly in the spotlight, and consumers, employees, candidates are all looking at them with big eyes, wondering what their next move is going to be. And that's really what it's all about. This is for us to actually say, okay, how are we going to plug into those opportunities? So thank you. And I hand over to Vanessa. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, ladies. Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Celeste. Good to see everyone here again. Thanks so much for making an effort to be here. Just for the point of clarity, I'm the only one in Johannesburg. Out of the three of us here, it is way colder in Johannesburg than it is in Cape Town or Durban. Chantal, just looking at your comment, I grew up in Durbs and this is proper cold. So thanks for everyone who braved the weather to sit in front of their laptop at home, hopefully in front of a heater. So what I do, guys, in a nutshell, I'm a talent sourcing trainer. I train people to find talent more effectively and more efficiently. I also do a lot of sourcing on the side. So look for talent globally, move talent around the world, which will hopefully get a little bit easier as the weeks go on. And at the moment, pretty much what I've been doing is doing a lot of consulting to people around their strategies around sourcing, which has been really interesting for me and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So without any further ado, let's get on to our first question of today. So the question is, why do you think we need to pay attention to reinventing ourselves or reinventing our business offerings? So basically what we need to do is we need to be able to reinvent ourselves because we don't know what's going to happen after this. We've been sitting in lockdown for 2 months, very long 64 days. What are we going to do when we come out of this? How are we going to reinvent ourselves to come out stronger than when we went in? And Jane, let's get you to answer the question first of all.
Sure. Thanks, Vanessa. Such a good question. And I think that what you're saying, it's so important that we really look at ourselves and say, okay, is what we're offering relevant? Is that what our clients are wanting and needing? And for me, I know that we've highlighted and spotlighted this question over this time, but it's not a just this time question. This is something that we need to be doing all the time if we're wanting to be people who really grow in our skills and aren't just busy people. I mean, I've been in recruitment for over 20 years and still love it, but I know that it's so easy, especially in recruitment where it's so fast paced, to just be busy for a month, to be flat out, and at the end of the time to come through and say, okay, this is what I've done, this, that, here, but have I actually grown in my skills? Have I really listened to what my clients and candidates are saying about what's important to them and adjusted my offering accordingly? And I was actually, I don't know if Tim Glenn is with us, but I was having a great chat with him this week. And he said that he actually described that this is what they do on an ongoing basis in their recruitment consultancy. They sit down and they constantly evaluate after every placement they make and say, okay, what went really well? What do we need to keep doing? What can we adjust for next time? They look at all the metrics around that. And I think that's so key, because then that really makes sure that you're someone who's constantly evolving. So it's really about constantly asking yourself questions and being prepared to answer honestly if you're wanting to be able to grow and reinvent yourself. So important, otherwise we'll all get left behind. So not just from that perspective, but from a personal growth. I mean, living out your own meaning and purpose. My husband wrote an article in the Stellenbosch newspaper around good faith, and how the concept of bad faith and good faith is really not necessarily a religious one. I mean, it was actually instigated by an atheist, but it's really about saying, okay, good faith is the ability to look at myself and be honest about what's lacking and have the courage to address that. And I think that's such a strong underpinning for any kind of change, because if we don't have the courage to be honest with ourselves and address those areas, then we won't change no matter how badly we're saying we want to. So those are my thoughts to start us off on the why. Celeste, your thoughts?
I think you covered quite a lot there, but thanks very much, Jane. So I also, I mean, plugging into what you say, it's really all about purpose. And at this point in time, I think we've been given an opportunity now to actually repurpose, reframe our offering. I think it's something that was sorely needed quite a while back, especially in our recruitment industry, in that we, to a certain degree, got complacent. We needed to be shaken up a little bit. And I think this has forced it a little bit in terms of saying, okay, we don't really have an option now, because our candidates' needs are changing, our clients' needs are changing, the whole global landscape is changing. So if we do not actually step up, we're going to be left behind. So it's really about saying, what is the opportunity to plug into these sentiments that are playing out? And as I say, it's a perfect opportunity now. It really is. If you think of all the things we've been doing as recruiters, talent acquisition managers, even business owners, if you think about what we have been doing, we have robotically been going through the motions, and we've never stopped and said, wait a minute, as you say, let's just have a look and test, you know, the processes and the experiences that we're providing, because it is all about experience and how they experience, how are our customers experiencing us. So that's my thought. I think this has given us the perfect opportunity to start repositioning. It's very uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable, but it's pushed us. It has pushed us to look at ourselves quite closely. So those are my words. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Celeste. You know, from my side, I'm going to take a three-pronged approach to this question. So just to remind you, you know, why do we think we need to pay attention to reinventing ourselves? And I think that the way we're going to do business in the future is going to change. Now, I don't know if anyone out there has got a crystal ball and you know what it's going to change to, because I certainly don't. But one thing that I know for sure is that your online brand is actually going to be more important than ever before. So if you're anyone who's in the industry, in the recruitment industry, whether you're sitting internally as a talent acquisition specialist or you're working as an external recruiter, supplying to a lot of different clients, if you don't have a good online brand, you're not going to be standing out from your competitors. So basically what I'm looking for is people to have an online brand that is almost magnetizes what they're doing, their personality, and is attracting talent to you, because those are the people who are going to win in the future. So if you've got an online brand that is strong, that is trustworthy, talent is going to start knocking on your door. And they're going to want to work with you because of what you're saying and what you're putting out there. And let's face it, when are we going to have big events in person again? Besides going to church, of course. But when are we going to have these events? People are going to check you out online. So your online presence needs to be stronger than ever before. My second point is to touch on what Jane said, is that it's up to you. We've realized that the people who have done well during this pandemic and this lockdown were those companies who, first of all, weren't fragile. So they were robust. And they were the companies who could pivot and be agile in order enough to still deliver a service. It may not have been the same service. I'll be honest with you, for the last 2 months, I haven't done any international sourcing because it was useless to try and move talent around the world. So what did I do? I looked at other markets where I could do more training. And I looked at the market in the UK because earning pounds, I could do a lot less training. I could earn pounds. And I wouldn't have to worry that the South African corporates at the moment are all concerned about training budgets, which they don't have. And my final point around this is that we need to reinvent ourselves, because we need to change the image of the recruitment industry. So long have we been lumped in with secondhand car salesmen, dodgy estate agents, etc., and nothing against those people. But we've got to put this recruitment industry on its flipping head, because we've got such a bad reputation. We need to use this time to show that we can be trusted partners, that we can actually add value to clients, and not just be seen as like the ugly red-headed stepchild of the HR industry. We are way more than that. And I think that this is the opportunity when we come out of lockdown that we really do our best to make a difference.
Can't agree more.
I feel like I need a pom-pom or something like that just to finish off. Right. So that's what I thought. Jen, did we get any questions around that?
We have quite a few comments and questions, all of them very relevant. Vanessa, I so agree with you. The standard that we can work towards, and if we all do this together, then it means that we're all going to do it together. But it will mean that we have to stop seeing each other potentially as competition and more as collaborators. That's my mention. So first of all, we have 2 questions and then some mentions as well. Let me just load it in. Doesn't seem to want to. Okay, so Monique said, I read an article by Mark Coetzee that suggested that the role of the recruiter will change rapidly, the TEAM approach. Do you think that the typical role of a recruiter will not be relevant anymore? And then another question that we can just lump together from Johan is, I'm interested on your perspective on the growth of gig working. Our current situation will lead to more job losses and possibly fear and resistance to recruit back to previous numbers. We work with a clear partnership and a collaboration approach. Everybody must do their bit to manage risks and opportunities. So, ladies, what do you think?
I want to take the first question. So if anyone wants to read that article by Mark Coetzee, it's actually on the SourceCon South Africa Facebook group. I posted it this week. I definitely think that recruiters, if you are not, think about the recruitment industry, like go back 5-10 years. What has actually changed in the way that we are working? What has changed in the way that we are charging our clients? You know, it's still, we're going to charge you a percentage of an annualized cost to company, and you will pay this after 3 months. The processes haven't changed. The way that we're approaching things haven't changed. And I believe that if you don't change, and for example, like my passion area is around sourcing and the finding of talent. If you're not getting better at finding the talent, you're not going to stay relevant. So I believe that the 360 recruiter, I think that their days could be numbered. I'm not saying that everyone's going to end up on the streets, but people are going to have to diversify their skill sets. So if you have people in your team who are stronger at sourcing and others who are better at managing a client relationship or a candidate relationship, let your team work to their strengths. Being a full 360 recruiter is a hell of a lot of work, and not everybody has the skills to do all of those things. So my opinion would be, yes, we need to change things up. We need to maybe change what the recruiter role looks like. We need to diversify the teams and take it from there. I don't know if you ladies, Jane and Celeste, want to comment on that.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Jane,
No,
you want
Celeste,
to? I can't agree with you more. There's been quite a debate around whether you actually split, the traditional recruiter role or not. But if I think of the demands that are put onto a recruiter nowadays, especially in the digital marketing space as well, the requirements there are, and I think this is why the standard has also landed up depleting, is people can't copyright the way they should be copywriting. So how to write a proper ad? Is it time constraints because they are being asked to do 1,000,001 things? They can't actually do their personal brand digitization or actually market themselves. Is that also because of time constraints and they feel they've been pulled in all direction? To become employer branding specialist, that alone also takes a special type of person and an outlook, a recruitment marketer. And getting into that space, if you want to do it properly, I think the typical recruiter is they're too thin on the ground at the moment. So I agree with you fully, because you need to play according to your strengths. And maybe in that way, you can actually demonstrate better value add to your client that has actually just been you skimming the surface in terms of your deliverables. So my thinking is very much alongside yours there. And maybe that's what it takes. I don't know, Jane, your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I can talk to the understanding that I have and the things that I've been hearing in the market. And I think that the gig economy is not, it's not, specific to the recruitment industry. The whole world is moving towards a gig economy. So recruiters will be moving in that direction, whether it's an industry thing or not. And I think the most successful recruiters that I see at this time are the people who are prepared to be flexible and agile. So going back to what Vanessa talked about when she mentioned agile, the people who are doing well are the people who are saying, what do my clients need? What specific parts of the process are they not able to, or do they not want to do themselves? So the same sales principle that we've always used, but it's saying, I'm constantly going to ask that question. I'm not going to assume that what worked a week ago is going to work this week. So it's being agile enough to keep asking client questions, keep having those sales conversations where we're doing more listening than talking. We're understanding what people's needs are, and we are willing to flex around those. So sometimes, yes, talking to the 360 recruiter, maybe there's a need for that in a situation, then do that. If there isn't a need for that, then don't do that. Again, in my conversation with Tim, he said that they have a person, and he was happy to share this. He actually trains on processes for recruitment consultancies. But he said they have a dedicated project manager. And so you might have a few people working on a role, or a few people working on a certain stage of a placement. And in that perspective, you collaborate to make sure that the whole team is successful and everybody keeps going. So yeah, there's very much, I think, gig economy, agile, flexibility, sales, understanding clients' needs, being willing to flex. All of that goes together and is only going to increase as time goes on.
Absolutely. So just to touch on Johan's comment around the gig economy, without a doubt that this is here to stay. I mean, I've worked in this format for over a year now. I'm pulled in to help with strategic projects, do some sourcing work, help out with companies who are potentially having a transition from an old recruitment model to a newer recruitment model. So I'm brought in to use my specialist skills, which is fantastic. Because a big reason of I think where I left my previous role and decided to open up my own business was that eventually your role becomes a little bit like support and maintenance. And then, where's the challenge? So definitely heading towards a gig economy in lots of sectors. And if you think about it from a South African instance, what I'm hearing from business out there, the first people to go when lockdown happened were the people that were deemed to be not permanent staff. So the contractors, the temp workers were all laid off. So at the moment, what's happening in the South African market is there's a hell of a lot of really good gig talent who are looking to go back, and they don't want to go back permanently. They want to go back in as a specialist on a contract. So it's definitely an area of focus going forward.
No, I agree.
And
I agree.
to that, Vanessa, I think what I see other recruitment agencies doing as well is saying, if we're working on a role, we're not going to employ a new consultant because we don't have capacity. We're going to just pull in a new consultant, somebody from the gig economy who's working for themselves, and say, help us with this role, but that's all we need your help with. So there's a lot more kind of contracting within our industry happening.
100%,
which is great.
Within all industries, I would say.
And I think if I can plug into that as well, just internally as well, companies are starting to look at internal workforces. They're looking at it as a marketplace now, where they're looking at skills and responsibilities and starting to cross-pollinate and build on the skills within as well, looking at them as almost like project-based start and finishing periods to be able to utilize their resources to the max on a freelance or contract basis. Again, just plugging into the gig type of temporary deliverables.
Okay, so as a last, because we have to move on for our timing, as a last mention, we've got a very happy poll going. What are you most excited about for Monday when South Africans can go back to work? We've got 8.3% of you is happy getting back into the office because you're tired of working at home. Oh, sorry, 7.7% of you. 28.6% of you want to see your colleagues in 3D as opposed to 2D. 10.5% of you is looking forward to that your children is going to go to school, and 59.1% is looking forward to buying alcohol.
Oh, you're alky.
So with that, we're going to move on to the second question. I'm going to disappear into our socials again, and I'll be loading another fun poll very soon. Keep your eyes open.
Thanks, Jen. So I'm up next, and my question is to Jane. Which specific business areas do you think need reinventing at this stage? If you look at your typical recruiter model we've been talking about.
So, I feel like in answering the questions around the gig economy just now, I think some of that I want to echo around, again, I don't think it's something static. I think reinventing and what areas need to be reinvented needs to be part of our everyday mindset. It needs to be something that we look at afresh and not just, oh my goodness, now it's COVID, now things are disrupting us. I think that Kelly Stone in the Recruiting Brain Food Marathon said, if you don't disrupt your status quo will disrupt you. And I thought I loved that quote, because I think that if we want to know the areas that need to be reinvented, it's sometimes the ones that we didn't want to reinvent and we were resisting that and kind of trying to sweep it under the carpet. And now it's in our face and we can't help it. So sometimes I think another thing I remember hearing in a class around change is that usually, because we don't really like change as human beings, we like to be comfortable, we often only change when staying the same is less comfortable than making the change. So now we're in a situation where it's less comfortable than having to change. So we're changing. But we have to integrate this into our lives unless we want to be in other situations where we're disrupted. So we want to constantly be the disruptors, which means having that mindset, constantly asking those questions of our clients, of our candidates, of ourselves, being willing to hear the honest answers and find out how we can best change to meet their needs. Not how it's just comfortable for us, but how can I go the extra mile for my clients? So I think if I do have to look at one area, though, I think often when I've been working with and training internal talent acquisition specialists in corporates over the past years, the thing we've been mostly working on is around sales, is around influencing, is around emotional intelligence, is around driving things forward. So not just the technical side of the recruiting, but the emotional intelligence and influencing side. And I think that is absolutely spotlighted right now. More than ever, internal talent acquisition specialists have to become trusted business partners. So they have to become people who influence, who are respected, who research their client and their client's needs, who have a strategic mindset, so that they advise their clients and preempt the needs by building those internal and external talent pipelines, so that they can seamlessly provide top talent, not waiting to be asked, but actually planning that, forecasting that, and really helping the business move forward by getting the people that are needed in place for that. So that's my answer to that, Celeste.
Thanks very much. And yes, I echo your words there as well. It is very much around your value add and asking those questions. If you're not asking the questions, and if you're not asking the right questions, you're not going to know how to reinvent yourself accordingly. Your clients are also possibly sitting saying, how different are you? How long do I have to put up with the same service? So what are you doing? So in effect, you need to start having those conversations where you say, this is what I achieved when I was down while I was in lockdown. I didn't clean the sock cupboard 25 times. I actually have now upskilled myself. This is the value that I have to actually bring to you as my client. So if you have collected all these learnings, how are you going to harness those learnings and package them, wrap them, and actually put those features and benefits forward? Because that is your new business model that you're going to be taking to market. And I strongly believe that if you've been doing the long yards, yes, without the alcohol, not easy. If you have been doing the long yards, it's now time to start repackaging what you have been doing and what you have been thinking and how you have been reframing your old business models. Then taking it to market and use your, as Van says, your personal brand. Start uploading all of those additional skills and what you have benefited from, and leverage off the digital media channels that we've got. So yeah, I mean, that's really what, and also, sorry, about your competitive differentiators. You don't want to be in a situation where your clients are saying, why are you different? They need to really know why you are different, because of the fact that you have embedded your footprint, your competitive advantage out there on social media. So yeah, that's really what I have to say. I don't know if you want to add to that, Van. Thank you.
So yeah, well, first of all, my name is Vanessa and I'm an alcoholic, because it just seems like it fits in well with this group. I'm quite surprised. But basically, to add to what Jane and Celeste have said, is that it's all about change, and it's all about changing of our mindsets. So, from a sourcing and a recruiting perspective, I love the part of my training when I stand in front of a class and I say to everyone, you've got to up your game across all of your social media platforms. And someone is always going to put up their hands and say, but my Facebook is only for my family and my varsity friends and the other people, the other moms from Moms and Babes group. Guys, it's not. I'm sorry. I have to let you know that your candidates are checking you out online, and I know this because I asked them. I do a lot of consulting with people who are trying to make career changes. So what I'm trying to say is that what we need to be doing when we're reinventing ourselves is make sure that we are very analytical and we go and we have a look at what we are putting out there. So the reason why we do this is that you're always going to be cross-referenced somewhere. So I don't care if you reach out to someone by phoning them, by sending them a WhatsApp, by sending them an email, by sending them an email, they will check you out online. Where they go and check you out is on one of their preferred platforms. Okay. So you have to have a presence on what I call the big four: the LinkedIn, the Facebook, the Twitter, and the Instagram. And you need to go and see what is the content that you are putting out on these platforms. And then ask yourself two questions. do you look like a recruiter worth talking to? Because bearing in mind, you're going to be responsible for changing someone's career, which is a big decision and difficult for people these days due to the climate. But also, do you look like someone who can be trusted with such a big decision about a career, new salary? It's going to have such a knock-on effect on the person's life. And the second thing which you need to ask yourself is that, you know, what is your online presence saying about you? What are you putting out there? So yes, your LinkedIn needs to be your masterpiece. It's where you need to be, you know, putting out your thought leadership. You want to be getting that trusted advisor status, because once you have that, you have very few people who will turn down a connection request or an email which you've sent to them. But you can't be doing that on LinkedIn and then behaving like an absolute hooligan, being racist, having strong political views, or just behaving like someone who can't be trusted on any one of the other platforms. So that's what I want us to change. I want us to change our thinking. We've got to change the way we think about how you are appearing online, and put out there, you know, what you want to be known as. You guys all know I'm passionate about sourcing. That's my thing. But I always say, I don't know everything about sourcing. I really and truly don't, but I know enough to train other people in order to do it. So don't put something out there that isn't honest or authentic, but put more out there, because when you open that door a little bit to your candidates and your clients, they're going to open that door a little bit more to you too. And it's coming down to being personable and having personal relationships with your candidates and your clients, because at the end of the day, they are people. And I saw LZ commented in our chat, very good idea. Go and Google yourself. What comes up? Would you work with yourself?
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, Van. So I think it is about trusted brands, definitely trusted brands. And it's about, if you have a trusted brand, if you have got a credible brand, a credible online brand reputation, you're going to, your clients are going to want to leverage off you.
Absolutely.
So again, it's really about writing those blogs, connecting, networking, having those conversations, segmenting your markets, being a subject matter specialist, adding value outside of just recruitment, but opinion pieces. So thank you. I agree with that. I think
it's been so interesting to listen to you three specialists and to hear what you're saying. It is super important to look after your own brand. I loved what you said about Facebook and your political and personal views, and saying that it's only for family, because it's not. And yeah, I used to be one of those people. That's me. I used to be, Facebook is for me and for my family. But you know what? Facebook has been one of the places where I connected the most with people like me. So we've got a few wonderful comments from our sidebar. I'm just going to go down there a little bit. I'm going to skip the alcohol for now, because we've got a poll coming up there. Change is hard for many people, but we can put people at ease, is something that I said earlier on. We, as recruiters, we can add value by putting people at ease in this time, because just as we were first to lose everything, all the jobs stopped and recruitment stopped, we are the first to start. So we learned a lot during this time, I think. Absolutely. And then, as LZ said, Google yourself. Andrea said, it's such a good question, but how do we decide that? I think mine is okay, good even, but that's my own subjective opinion. Maybe I could ask others to give me their opinion. That's a very good idea. And then, of course, Alam saying employers are asking for social media checks these days. So they will also be checking out the suppliers. And the first impressions always counts, from Al. Credible brand, professional social media is super important. Nicole said, I had a client tell me this week that recruiters don't believe in relationships anymore. I was flabbergasted. Nicole said, I would not be surprised by that, because not everybody thinks the way we do. We need to be advising candidates about their own personal brands too, from Leslie and from Nicole. While we are innovating and being agile, we can't forget the human factor. Our business will always be a people-orientated business. Yes, Nicole. Be personable 24/7. And
all good
questions. We didn't necessarily have any questions during this time.
Jen, I see there is a request from Johan for the poll saying, can we run a poll to see how many people started their own business this year?
I will absolutely do that. We've got one more poll that we've prepared, and I will also load that one. I want to give you some feedback on how many webinars of our audiences watched this during the 64-day lockdown. And we have 20% of people said 1 to 5, 16.7% between 6 and 10, 20% between 11 and 15, 30%, 16 to 20. Way to go, people. Netflix is for losers, eh? Over 20 is 4 votes. So, and that's 13%. So that's excellent. We have been educating ourselves as recruiters, and that is lovely. Me out.
That's wonderful. So positioned.
We're definitely in the right space then. If we're in webinars, whether we're doing them or whether we're listening to them, that's where everyone is. And I love what Kelly said. She said she feels like this has kind of almost become like a regular coffee get-together, coffee social with people. Where it's not, because it's not just about the learning and sharing. It's really about that sense of community and collaboration, which is wonderful.
Yeah, completely.
So. Cool. Our last question, but can I just introduce myself? My name is Jane and I'm a chocoholic. So I really hate that alcohol is being sold on Monday. I'm so happy to not have to do. I'm just happy that they sold chocolate through lockdown. So Vanessa, over to you. Maybe you can start off. Our final question that we want to focus on is we've got the why we need to reinvent ourselves. We've got the what areas do we need to focus on. So now we want to look a little bit more around the practical side of how do we go about reinventing ourselves if that's what we want to do.
Awesome. So I think the first thing that's good to start with is by Googling yourself. That's a fantastic starting point. You know, if you were to look at yourself as an outsider and you went to go and have a look and say, okay, what are you finding out about yourself on the web? Okay. And when I do this in my training, it's actually quite amazing. I mean, there's always someone who says, oh, look at this photo. I never knew this photo was me, was even on the internet. So guys, when you Google yourself, look at the images too, okay? But what I want to say is that start with an audit. So look at where you are. I mean, it's pointless having a Twitter account that you opened 10 years ago, you sent out one tweet and now it's dormant, because it makes you look worse than not being on Twitter at all. Yeah. So you can easily go and do this yourself. Go and see where you are and where you can make improvements. And what I want to actually say around this is, you know, a couple of pointers. You want to be found. You're in the industry where you want people to come knocking on your door and you want talent to find you. Okay. So what I suggest you do is that you make it easy for them. Remember, people can sometimes be a little bit doof, okay? And I mean that in the nicest possible way, okay? But spoon feed them, give them what they want. I mean, I was in a coaching session yesterday with someone around their LinkedIn profile, and they were horrified because they are on a very senior talent acquisition position, that when you clicked on the contact information on LinkedIn, it only showed their Gmail address. And they weren't even aware of that. So how's talent supposed to find you when you're giving a Gmail address that actually isn't even the correct Gmail address anymore? So these are things which we don't think about, but you want people, it's much easier when talent comes knocking on your door than you always having to go and find the talent. So look at your contact information. What are you putting out there? You know, simple things. The only place where I change my profile picture is on Facebook. However, what you also need to do is on your LinkedIn, your Twitter, and your Instagram, have a common thread through your bio, have the same profile picture, and have a nicely designed cover photo. Okay? These are all very important things for you because you want to be, there must be no confusion of who you are on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. And if you do send someone an email and they check you out on LinkedIn and it says that you are Jane Moors from Out of Box Thinking, but when you actually look at Facebook, it says that you're still working at your previous company and the only email address is a Gmail address. Where's your credibility? Yeah. So it's these things which we don't think about because trust is formed up front and that trust starts in an online relationship. So for me, it's all about, you know, doing a good audit, where you are, what you are putting out there, and then get more active. I think a lot of South Africans found that the problem is when it comes to posting on these platforms, is they don't know what to post. And I get that. Okay. It has become ingrained in me that something will happen during the day and I'll think, oh, this will make a great LinkedIn post. I must do this in the morning. But not everyone thinks like that, and I get it. So what I want to encourage you to do is to set yourself some kind of a goal. My best advice on LinkedIn, get posting 3 times a week, and you do have something of value to add. You really and truly do. Even if it's just something that's a personal experience. People respond better to posts that are about their personal experience. Everyone likes to hear a story, okay? And you're not the only one who's in the same boat. Trust me. And some of the most flippant posts, there was a post I actually put on Monday this week about being positive. We're going to level 3. Things are looking up. Guys, that's my most successful post of all time. I think I'm sitting on over 45,000 views. I literally wrote it in 5 minutes, and all I wanted to do was inject a bit of positivity into our industry. Don't sit there and overthink it. The ones that I overthink and I plot and I rewrite are the ones that are the ones that don't really perform that well. So the ones that I think are going to do super well never do, and vice versa. So all I'm saying is go and try, go and experiment. And you and the more that you do it, the more it's going to become part of your day-to-day activities. So Celeste, over to you. What do you think?
Yeah. So thanks. I completely agree. So I think I'm overthinking my posts. I think I'm missing the boat somehow. So I'm going to have to start being a little bit more personable. But just in terms of personal branding there as well, Vanessa, for those, for those bigger sort of recruitment organizations, not the one-man sort of business and that, I think it's also important to understand that those consultants, those business developers, the talent acquisition, or even you as an internal recruiter, you need to ensure that you are aligned with your company brand, because that in itself, you're actually doing detrimental damage if you have got 1 or 2 of your people that are paying complete fantastic attention to grooming their personal brands, but you've got 1 or 2 that are not doing the same. You need to align. You actually align, and you need to reinforce a collective one brand approach to how you go out there, because that can actually destroy whatever everyone else is doing. Again, it's also about authenticity, and again, plugging into what Vanessa said, it's about your personal experience. Employee-generated content at the moment is top of the pops, and it's because people are looking at how companies are treating their employees. So whether you are a managing director of a recruitment agency that's looking after your recruiters, or whether you are an internal recruiter or a chief human resources officer within a big corporate organization, you need to be encouraging your people to put authenticity across in terms of what's happening to you at the moment and how's your company looking after you. So in terms of that, I think there's work that can be done there. And sorry, I don't want to take up too much time here, but then it's about also auditing what you are doing at the moment. Stock take what you've been doing. What is talent wanting from you? Start with your clients that you've got relationships with. Start with your candidates that you've got relationships with. Ask them the questions on where you can better yourself, whether it's COVID or not. You've got the relationships in place. Value their input. Ask them for it. Let them be the guiding lights. So that's really my 2 pence worth there. Jane, I don't know if you've got anything to add there.
Thanks, Celeste. Yeah, I love that echo and that theme that's coming through around consistently ask our clients and our candidates, consistently find out where are the areas where we can improve and where we can grow. So thanks for that, Celeste.
Pleasure.
And yeah, Vanessa, I think that, when you were talking about trust, I think that's something that I've also heard, especially during lockdown, the importance of building trust. And we know that trust is built on truth. So I think those points around being authentic online is very important, and that you're the same person online as you are in person. We actually had a meeting this morning, and I said to the person, wonderful to meet you, and it's great that you actually look like your LinkedIn photo. There's so many people, you meet them and you're like,
exactly.
So I know we all try to look our best online, but you still want to, be able to have some authenticity there. So, Alam, I know you were concerned because you're showing up as a terrorist or something. You said freedom fighter. Sorry, that's the wrong word. Sorry, politically incorrect word. Freedom fighter in Afghanistan. So if that's who you really are, Alam, that's fine. But if you're alarmed by that, which it seemed like you were, then that's a good time to clean up your profiles, as you're saying. But I think along with that, another way that we build credibility and trust is by what other people say about us. And so building onto what Vanessa was saying about your LinkedIn profile, find people who recommend you and who will recommend you on LinkedIn, and not just from years ago, but find it from your current and your most recent roles, and ask people. And you can audit them before you put them on. You don't have to put on everything that everybody says. You can ask them to rewrite it even, or even tell them, please write this. And if you kind of got to have your tribe, as Victoria Rush and Andy Foote always talk about. So I think that's very important, is to build that credibility, because there is a social trust, especially amongst millennials, Gen Zs. People will first look at what other people say about you and then decide whether to trust you or not. So you want to be able to build on that reciprocity where you give positive affirmation and appreciation to others. And they will want to give that back, not in a non-authentic way, in a genuine way. So I think that's so important. And Alam, you also mentioned you had writer's block. So how do I write something on social media if I can't think of something to write? I love what Vanessa said about don't overthink it, and what Celeste echoed, and what Shirley mentioned about the notepad and just jotting down things as they come to mind. I think that's a great idea. And something that I remember LZ has also always said is just find something in the article or in the post that you'll reshare of someone else's, and just echo one line from that. You don't have to make it up yourself all the time, but you do want to show your opinion, support, or your agreement in some way. You don't want to just reshare stuff and look like you're spamming everything. So I think those are important. Building personal relationships on LinkedIn, not just commenting publicly, but going in and messaging people. Thank you for liking, thank you for commenting. Build a relationship with the people that you think you're going to be able to work with going forward. And the algorithm, as I've said before, actually picks up on that. And the more personal messages you have with people, the more likely those people are to see your posts when you do post. So the gamifying side that goes into these things as well. I think just from a kind of constant learning point of view, and I don't know if you have a link to Kolb's adult learning cycle, but I think if any of you are like, how do I keep learning? It's such a great learning theory. David Kolb, when he talks about how adults learn, he says we have a concept, we then experiment with it, we then try it out, concrete experience in the workplace, and then most important part of that cycle is reflection. So if you're not building time every day or regular time to reflect back and say, how did that go? And I always talk about that in my interview training. Don't just come out of an interview and think, is the candidate right or not? Think about, how did I impact that interview? What did I do really well that built rapport, set the candidate at ease, helped get accurate information from the candidate? And what didn't I do so well that I need to adjust for next time? And I think in that way, if we go through every activity with some reflection built in, then that helps us to be able to improve our skills and not just be people who are busy and frantic.
Yeah.
So Jen, tell us, where are we at with our thoughts and our questions? We want to make sure we end on time. We're all learning good time management over this period, and I know Vanessa's off to play after this.
That's true. So first I'm going to run through the polls, then I'm going to give the last two questions that we have out so that you can give your attention to that. So the first poll we actually ran again was now Johan's poll. And it actually has some interesting reflections there. So for the business owners, I started my business in 2020, 6 votes. 6 people started their business this year.
Wow.
3 votes for 2019. Between 2014 and 2017, 6 votes. And earlier than 2014, 7 votes at the moment. That's some really interesting data we're getting there. And the people who started this year, 2020, welcome to entrepreneurship. Welcome to the business world. I'm sorry that it's such a bad year to start a business, but we're here for you anyway. And then our very last poll is, how long are you prepared to queue for alcohol on Monday? 28% of people said that you will find me in the chocolate aisle. 7% of people said that they're happy to wait half an hour. 11% said that they'll happily wait for 1 hour, and 31% said that however long it takes. And then, of course, we had this wonderful the wonderful note from the sidebar. I ordered mine online. Me too. Okay, so
regarding chocolate lover, Ryan.
Well, chocolate, wine, they go together like mozzarella and basil. So I am interested in your perspective on, that one we've answered before. Sorry, Andrea. So serious question. I've heard that you shouldn't use the same post on all the media, like over LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and Insta. What are your thoughts about it? And the second question is offering writing CVs or LinkedIn profiles for candidates being desperate?
Sure, I'll cover the last
8 minutes
one. I think
left.
I'm going to just cover that last one. And I think that, the fact that you need to ask that question, you shouldn't need to ask the question, because everyone needs to make money. Everyone needs to put food on the table. So you've got to do what you've got to do. So if it means you're going to write CVs for people and you want to help them with their LinkedIn profiles, go for it. No judgment. Just you got to do what you got to do. And I don't think that it's something that you need to look at that you're going to do for the rest of your life. But if you need to do it short term, then why not? Would be my thoughts.
No, I agree there as well, then. I think it's a stepping stone. If it is a measure of goodwill, then so let it be, because that candidate could be your next client. You don't know. And it's give and get as well. If you can give a bit of yourself, you'll get that credibility. You will get that, it will build your reputation. It's honestly, it's worth it. Open the hand and give.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Jane, I just want to look at that other question quickly about your posting across all platforms. I always recommend that you connect your Twitter feed with your LinkedIn. So when you post on LinkedIn, it goes out as a tweet. But I don't think you should be posting what you're posting on LinkedIn on Facebook and vice versa. And I don't think you should be putting on Instagram what you're putting on LinkedIn. So my rule of thumb is couple together LinkedIn and Twitter, and couple together Facebook and Instagram. Very different audiences and all of those things. So over to you, Jane.
Yes, thank you. So let me just say, I'm guilty of, I take what I post on LinkedIn and I put that on Facebook, but I change the language and the tone. So I'll make it more informal. I'll make it, more conversational or something. But sometimes I just think, I've got an idea. Can I just put it out and reposition it in 4 different ways based on how that platform operates and the type of people who are on there? So I think that's sometimes how I think. I think it does help for me to have someone to back it up. I know LZ helps us to be able to post things, because I don't always get to it. But I really like posting things personally. I like posting photos. I think the metrics show up that people like photos, real photos, not stock photos, and that people like real events and your real opinions, because they want to relate to you as a person. And I think that's something that you also advocate, Celeste, is that authenticity and that, that value proposition. So you really want to be able to communicate who you are and connect with people. I like the comment LZ put out there as well, that she doesn't just, she also Googles her clients to see, do I want to work with this client? It's not necessarily the other way around all the time. So, yeah. So, Vanessa, did you have any other points there that you wanted to?
No, not really. And I'm just reading the comments over here. Is that, you know, some people feel that they're guilty of doing things incorrectly, but there isn't actually a right or a wrong way of doing this, to be honest. It's kind of just what works best. You know, your messaging on your LinkedIn and your Twitter is just slightly different to your Facebook, because as we've discussed, your Facebook is becoming a more professional platform, but you still do have your friends and your family on there. So I try not to post too much business stuff on my personal Facebook, but where LinkedIn is all about business. So you'll find your groove, and you've got to do what works for you. There's no hard and fast manual. So
I think something I keep wanting to do that I haven't got around to yet is just creating my groups on Facebook, so that my friends and family, you know, don't have to see everything. And likewise, my clients and, you know, people who want to connect like that don't have to see everything. So that's still on my to-do list, to manage that over lockdown.
So just a comment on that is that, you know, it's great to have groups, but what I suggest is that you run a group like a community. So instead of having a page for your business, like for myself, I don't have a business page on Facebook. I run a community, and that's the SourceCon South Africa group. And that's kind of like my community on Facebook. So you just got to be careful, because people are known to form a better attachment and connection with the person as opposed to a brand or a business. So just bear that in mind.
Yes, but I think that's true. I think that's become more and more the trend, is people connect. And I think that's where LinkedIn profiles are replacing CVs. Is people you're more becoming your own brand than your
I haven't had a CV for over 10 years now. So it's definitely my CV. Please God, do I not need to ever make a CV again in my life.
Vanessa, any last polls or questions? I know we've only got 2 minutes.
No, just something exciting that I've got to share with everyone is that I put on a pair of jeans that I haven't put on for 2 months this morning, and they were looser than what they were pre-lockdown. So that's my exciting news on Friday. So that's, So there I am, guys, about as deep as a Petri dish today. That's my closing comment.
That's wonderful. Let's give me a Facebook comment. That's a Facebook comment.
So no, just thanks to everyone who attended, and thanks to my co-host, and thanks to Jen for the tech side.
Yes, thank you very much. We've really loved being with everybody today. Great points, great learning. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you so much for all your comments in the sidebar. It's almost as if we can't keep up with all your amazing comments. It's wonderful. I'm going to sit afterwards and read through all of them. And yes, Tanya, you should definitely get into contact with LZ. She's the person to speak to where that's concerned. Thank you so much for joining us online, ladies. We will hopefully see everyone again in 2 weeks' time or so, where the world will hopefully be a little bit more normalish. And good luck for Monday.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one. Stay well. Thanks for coming. Cheers, Van.
See you guys.
Bye.
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 Bye, Celeste. Bye, Van. Bye, Jane.
Bye.